This is former President and fighter pilot George W. Bush. Welcome to John Santo's The Radio. This is a very special episode of The Radio because aviation related. And I love aviation because I was a pilot. So without further ado, or is it ado? That doesn't matter. This isn't live, is it? I'm kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, John Santo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to John Santo's The Radio. As I do each week with my special guest co-host, I let them introduce themselves. My name is John Santo. My special guest co-host for the evening is...
My name is Tom Murphy. Happy to be here. My radio debut.
Radio debut.
Debuting my radio debut on the radio, and I just want to say thank you very, very much, John, for having me in today. I'm looking forward to it.
It's a pleasure. Now, I just met you recently.
Yes.
We met at the Christmas party.
Oh, you can't say that anymore. It's a holiday party.
Holiday party. I can say Christmas. I'm going to say Christmas
We're
party.
going to say Merry Christmas. We're going to say Happy New Year. We're going to say everything. I invented them all.
We love all the religions, except a couple. We love most of them. No, I'm kidding. We love all the religions. Actually, it was a holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah.
Nobody loves religion more than I do. How many Trumps do we have in the room right now?
A lot of Trumps. A lot of Trumps.
What could be better than more Trumps?
But that was a fun night.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And so we met. We connected on the book face. And there was that. It was fortunately it turned out okay. It was an incident. This light aircraft landed short at Republic, and I posted about it saying, "Don't take the sudden stay because it's closed." And I was trying to figure out how bad it was or what have you. And then you said, "Wow, you seem to know what you're talking about."
I reached out to you, and I don't remember if we had that conversation at
we didn't. No, we didn't
at the holiday party. But turns out we both went to Dowling College. Which is no longer in business, but produced a lot of fine aviation minds.
It was a very tough school to get into. Elite, only the elite went there.
Only the best of the best.
The best of the best.
That's
one
of my professors used to say that. The best of the best.
Which professor was that?
His first name was Frank. I don't know if he was teaching when you were there, but
no, we're about 10 years apart, I think.
Yeah. But he used to say that a lot. The best of the best. I don't know what he's doing now. He might be teaching down in flight safety or something like that. But
that was a fun school, though.
So we had an aviation connection, and I saw your analysis on the unfortunate crash. I believe it was a Mooney, short of Farmingdale.
It was a Mooney, yeah.
And I read your summary, and I was like, wow, this guy, no question about it, knows what he's talking about. Because you see countless articles in the media and people that jump to conclusions on why these airplanes don't make it to their destination, and a lot of the times, the people in the media, the so-called experts, really don't know.
They don't know
exactly what they're talking about.
And my question about it was the airplane en route to Republic and diverted to, or was it going somewhere else and diverted to Republic?
Right.
And if it was going to Republic, was it already on final approach, or did it happen to have emergency further out? And when everybody's like, when I said, did the airplane land on the Parkway? And people are like, no, I said, okay, you see the pictures? The airplane's in the woods. Okay, but the airplane, I saw that the airplane ended up in the woods. But the difference between the airplane stopping in the woods, did it hit the pavement with the wheels and scoot into the woods?
Right.
Or did it land into the woods, crash short of, I think he was going for runway
1. 3-2, or I'm not sure. It might have been 1. Yeah.
It was. I mean, he might have been going for 1 and then said, hey, I'm not going to make it, I'll go for the other.
I guarantee you he wasn't trying to land in the woods.
Definitely
if that's
not
where he ended up,
So I didn't know if he landed and then on the grass or the pavement and then skidded into the woods, or if he came down and that was the initial ground impact was in the woods. Mm-hmm. So those were two different scenarios, and people are like, can't you see the planes in the woods? Yeah, I can see that, And then of course I had to get two different angles of it, but I got the complete tail number.
Okay.
So then I go into the databases and I try to figure out. So I knew right away it took off from Suffolk County Airport, West Hampton Beach, and was en route to Republic. That was the intended flight.
Right.
So I guess he developed problems on final approach. Mm-hmm. He was already, I guess, on final or close to final approach. Right. So, but those were like different questions, and that's I just think back. Did you have Bob Del Vecchio for aircraft accident investigation?
I did not.
He was great.
I'm trying to think. I had a professor by the name, I alluded to him earlier. His name is Frank Catronio. I don't think he's obviously no longer teaching because Dowling's out of business, but I don't know what he's doing now. But we did a lot of crash investigation stuff in his classes. which was kind of interesting how to analyze the crashes
Yep.
and what type of a role human factors play and,
Yep.
and CRM and things like that. And a lot of the CRM stuff, other professions are now kind of taking hold of that, and checklist usage. You find it in the medical fields now.
Yep.
And certain other companies are adopting what are called SOPs, standard operating procedures, that a lot of aviation companies and airlines employ. So it's kind of interesting to see aviation's effect on other fields.
Yep. Especially the use of checklists and things like that.
Yep.
So I actually was in the corporate world. I worked for Aviation Week, but I wasn't on the editorial side. I was on the business side, advertising, sales, market research, and analytics. But I was a power user in aviation, of our database products. So I used to demo them for the customers because I was not only a user of them. I was we would sell them to people.
Right.
So I used to go to. So our users were people in the airlines for the most part, people on Capitol Hill, the aviation subcommittee, armed services committee. I used to primarily deal with the staff, so I used to go to Washington a lot. Department of Defense was another customer. I went to the Pentagon once. That was pretty cool, but I didn't get very far into the Pentagon. Everybody's like, "Oh, I was a Pentagon." Like, not that interesting because
It's got 5 sides. That's all I know.
It's got 5 sides.
I've never
and I
been.
basically went in,
Yeah.
and there's conference rooms on the outside. You don't really go through a lot of. You go through an initial clearance,
Right.
But you're not going in. The conference room isn't next to the war room,
Right.
They have public areas for people that are selling them.
You didn't have Wolf Blitzer's
products.
clearance.
Nope,
No
didn't have
situation
that.
room for
no
you, pal.
situation room. It was.
Jeez.
They're pretty much right as soon as you walk in. There's conference rooms right there.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember on a previous episode of The Radio, you got to meet Bob Hall, NTSB chairman.
Bob Francis.
Francis.
Yeah.
Hall Francis.
Bob Francis. I first met Bob Francis at Oshkosh.
Okay.
I was at the air show. I was working the Aviation Week booth, and he comes into our tent or whatever we had. We had a tent, and he comes in and he goes, I'm like, holy Carol, I think that's Bob Francis. So he was looking for my boss, the publisher. And I said, can I ask you, are you Bob Francis? It was. And he's like, oh, this is Patty Wagstaff. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Patty Wagstaff. And
She's fantastic.
phenomenal.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I met somebody else. I can't remember her last name. He was with a few people. And
An aerobatic pilot? Like Patty, or?
No. I think she was NTSB.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I recognized her from the news, but like with him, like at an accident. This was only 5 years after TWA 800. I was
Okay.
there in 01.
Right.
Prior to 9/11.
One, I was
So meeting him
teaching
was
people how to
cool.
fly at Mid Island Air Service. I think we share that in common too. We both took
flew
flying lessons out of Mid Island Air
Mid-Island.
Service, right?
Well, my initial training I did out of Republic.
Oh, okay.
So I posted a picture. One of the planes I flew
Oh,
was
yes, that's
734
right.
Hotel Delta.
Yeah, I saw that just the
and
other
it's,
day.
And it's parked next to the Marriott, like with the Marriott in the background. I'm
The
like,
mighty Skyhawk.
I'm like, Hotel Delta's next to a hotel. Mind blown. But the plane I soloed in, November 73334, was actually coming up February of 89 is my first solo. And I flew 17 Echo, was the first plane I ever flew.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, because we had the cooperative with SUNY Farmingdale,
Right.
BOCES or whatever. And then I flew, Hotel Delta was the first plane I flew on 17 Echo I flew cross country.
Yep.
Hotel Delta I did some solo practice.
Isn't it amazing when you first solo an airplane? That, like, there's no other feeling like
No
it.
other
You
feeling
always
like it.
remember, the first airplane that you soloed in.
And you know what's funny? So I'd been working with another instructor. I did my solo check ride with this guy, Lou Howard.
Okay.
He flew like airplanes in the Air Force before they had jet engines. He was
Probably.
old timer. And we did the solo check ride, and he cleared me for solo. But then my instructor got reassigned, to like other groups, so they like reorganized who the instructors were. And I got this guy Peter Cuero, and he was a first officer on the 737 for U.S. Air.
Oh, wow.
And he was my new instructor, and I only went up with him that one day. First day we did a couple of touch and goes.
Yep.
Did some practice out over the beach, and then he said, "Make the next one a full stop." I'm like, "We still have another 45 minutes on the lesson."
Now
And
maybe
he goes, "You're going up solo." I'm going to
my
the
God. And you
take
didn't
me to the
expect it,
tower.
right?
Totally not. First, I only flew with the guy once.
unbelievable.
And he said, that's it.
Yeah.
Take me to the tower.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Rapunzel. And then I took it up by myself.
Oh, man.
And then I looked as soon as I lifted off, I looked to my right and there's nobody there. This is it.
Can't screw this up now.
Can't screw it up now. I'm the pilot.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'll never forget it. My first flight instructor is now flying a biz jet around the world with another one of the first flight instructors that I had, and he still flight instructs on the side. You know, you never really lose that desire to teach,
Yeah, a lot
no
of guys
matter
do.
what level of flying you're at. I think, and
But
it
now
makes you, in my opinion, makes you a more proficient pilot.
Now you fly airliners,
Yes.
right? And so a lot of airline pilots that I meet that are flying professionally, that fly, all the time or whatever, they don't like to fly the GA airplanes anymore because it's like if anything happens, then
Right.
like they don't like to get involved with the GA world anymore, which is kind of unfortunate because
Right. I subscribe to that theory a little bit. I keep my flight instructor certifications current. I have 2 young daughters. In the event that they ever want to learn how to fly,
Right, oh, so you're current. Yeah.
I would love to teach them, and I would love to just take them flying one day. So that's on the bucket list. But no, generally speaking, I have not flown a light airplane, a GA airplane. Geez, it's probably been over 10 years now.
So the old joke is, like when you fly, when a 747 pilot flies a GA or like a
yeah.
Cessna, I'm like, why are you flaring so
flaring
high?
at 50 feet.
Well, they're 3 stories up when the nose is on
Right,
the ground.
right.
That plane. And you know what the interesting thing is when I first flew in a 737 simulator when I was with Aviation Week.
Okay.
In a Skyhawk, the wheels are a few feet behind the pilot's seat.
Yes.
In the planes that you fly, they're all the way in the back.
Oh yeah, way back there.
Way back there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that to me is like different. Like, I learned to like look at the picture. Like, what should everything look like when when the main gear is down, and then when as you lower the nose down. But when the nose is lowered, that's 30 feet in the air.
He's still sitting
on
yeah.
that plane.
Yeah.
I don't know what on your plane.
I'm
it's about
guessing
15 feet,
you're
20
probably
feet?
15 or 20 feet up in the
15,
air.
20,
you know?
I mean, but for when you're used to being, stepping into a plane with one step and
Yeah.
2 feet off the ground.
Yeah. It's just, if you get to a certain level, it just becomes a different sight picture
Right.
for whatever airplane it is that you're flying. And
That's what a C5 pilot told me.
yeah, I guess so.
He's like, you get to remember what it looks like. And I'm like, it's bizarre for me, not having flown those except for the occasional.
Now, I
simulator
say
ride.
that, I'd get in a little airplane tomorrow and probably start flaring, or 20 or
Right.
30 feet. And for the audience, if you guys don't know what a flare is, it's just when the pilot kind of starts rounding out, getting ready to land, and kind of arrests the rate of descent, and sort of prepares to land the airplane nice and soft.
Now, I used to
every
work
time.
for an astronaut at Aviation Week. The president of Aviation Week for a few years was a retired NASA astronaut. And I got this app on the iPhone where you land the space shuttle.
Okay.
And it's pretty detailed. You could do the different approaches. You could do Edwards. You could do Kennedy. You could come in from different directions to each runway. And you could do all kinds of, you could fly the full approach. You could do a return to launch site approach, all these different approaches.
Okay.
And I show it to him. He's like, they made this into a game? I'm like, what do you mean they? What are you talking about? He said, we used to bring a Mac laptop into space. This is the 90s. He flew in the 90s. So that we could practice our landings while in orbit.
Really?
Because you have to maintain landing proficiency.
Right.
And you can't do that while you're flying the mission because so they have to kind of bring a simulator with them. And that's what he would do. They would practice the landings.
And you're only going to land once at the end of the mission.
At the end
and
of the
they're
mission.
away for, days or weeks at a time, maybe. I don't know.
Days, sometimes 16 days.
Right.
And he said, we had to land like 3 every 10. Well, how are you going to practice 3 landings every 10 if you're in space for 16? You'd have to practice right before you went out to the launch pad.
Right.
So they brought this up and they would practice the and if they knew the conditions at the time of the actual landing, they'd put that into the parameters so they could land that way. So if it was a night landing versus a day landing, what have you. So he showed me how to do it. And he was like, you got to put, this is how you do it. And I'm like, oh my God, now I can do it. And I also have a desktop space shuttle simulator.
Right.
So the approach, it's
super steep, right?
It's like 25, 30 degrees down
my
angle.
goodness, yeah.
And you're at 300 knots, and you don't start to pull the nose up until about 2,000 feet. He said, just aim for the lights. There's VASI lights. We'll explain with VASI.
Right.
There's VASI lights just short of the runway. He said, that's when you get, and all of a sudden the airspeed bleeds from 300, it goes down real fast as you start to pull it up.
What else do they have you pull up at? 300?
Like either 2,000 or 3,000 feet. I don't remember.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
That's when you're starting the flare. But your sink rate is still pretty.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're
Pretty
coming in
good.
at 25 or 30 degrees, you got to be, 10,000 feet a minute or something like that, right?
It's quick. I couldn't believe, and then I'm like pulling up, and I'm like, all right, but you can't raise the nose too high.
Right.
But there's these little triangles in the heads-up display that start to come up from the bottom of the HUD, and you basically have to keep the nose indicator between them.
Right.
And that guides you right in. And he's like, "Oh, you're doing very well." And I put it right in between the two. There's only like a 20-foot touchdown zone.
Okay.
That's optimal.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to be at a certain vertical speed, forward speed, everything's perfect. Chirp, put it down, and then lower the nose.
Not like William Fichtner in Armageddon. He blew
That
his
was
landing by 26 miles.
Ridiculous.
Steve Buscemi knew all about it because he's a genius.
He's a genius.
Yeah.
Or that in Space Cowboys. That's so stupid.
I honestly didn't see that. I'm one of those guys, unfortunately, like one of those annoying guys that hasn't seen
the movies?
So many movies. And, I'm not saying that you would react like this, but you never have it when you tell someone like, "Oh, I haven't seen such and such," and they're like, "Oh my goodness, you haven't seen? You mean to tell me that you haven't seen?" And like they get more incredulous every time they repeat how you haven't seen the movie, and it's like, well, that's not going to change the fact that I still haven't seen the movie.
Well, it drives my wife nuts because I have seen the movies. Oh. I was watching Argo with her.
Oh, okay.
Right? Did you ever see
That's,
Argo?
With Ben Affleck.
Ben
right?
Affleck.
Yeah, I saw it once.
The diplomats out of Iran.
Yes.
So they're taking off in a Swiss Air 747.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a 300. This movie took place in 1980. 300 didn't come out till 83. That should have been a 200 or a 100. She just rolled her eyes and left the room. She was so pissed. Now, obviously, they probably had a 300 Swiss Air in that paint scheme lying around.
Right.
And they used that for the picture. But the 747-300 did not make its first flight until 1983. So it couldn't have been in revenue service with Swiss Air in 1980.
I used to work with a guy, charter company.
Or 79 or whatever it was.
He's at my current company now. We work, again, we haven't flown together at this company, but we used to fly together all the time. And he used to work for Coletta Coletta Charters, and he used to be a dispatcher for them. And I found out that the two 747s that they used in Air Force One, the shooting of Air Force One, that movie was one of my favorite movies.
Great picture.
Where Coletta old 747s, dash 100s or 200s.
Yeah, they said they repainted them for the movie.
Right.
And I have the making of it on the DVD. And the who's the director? It was a German guy. He goes, "This is the real airplane. This is fake. Okay, this real airplane again."
It's not Ivan Reitman, right?
I forget who it was, but he's like,
I think
this pilot did whatever we wanted. He was great.
Right.
Because I told him I wanted to do this. And it was, there was some unrealistic things in that movie.
Incredibly unrealistic.
Incredibly unrealistic.
I love that. That's one of my favorite airplane movies.
Because just when you think it's over, like now the MiGs are coming. It's such a great... and the thing with the pilot being lowered into the plane like that, the rope rescue, was actually first done successfully by Charlton Heston.
Is that right?
In the movie Airport 75.
Okay.
Which came out in 1974, which is ridiculous. But there was a collision, so the 747 was being flown by... Now, if anybody has ever seen Airplane movie, right, almost the entire Airplane movie came from Airport 75.
Okay.
So the premise is the plane is being diverted because of weather, 747. And there's this, what's the twin engine bonanza, the Baron.
Okay, yep.
And the guy has a heart attack and he's off his assigned altitude. He hits the 747 dead on in the cockpit. The co-pilot's blown out of the plane. Eric Estrada is the flight engineer. He's killed on impact.
Oh my goodness.
And the captain's blinded from the injuries.
Sure.
So the stereotypical, if you watch this movie, watch it. This is very sexist. They have the flight attendant panicking, Nancy.
It was 1974, you said, right?
74. Charlton Heston calls her honey about 74 times. And he's like, "Come on, Nancy, you've got to get to the autopilot. You can do it, honey." Because he's like Alan Murdoch. Is that a pilot name or what?
Oh,
Alan
yeah.
Murdoch.
I come across some good ones, too. There's a lot of guys that fly and, you see their name on the paper, on the schedule or whatever you print out. You look at your schedule, you say, "Oh, I'm flying with so-and-so. John Santo. Hey, John, how you doing?" And then it's like, "Well, actually, I go by Chip." Chip. It's like, how did you get Chip out of John? You know what I mean? It's like,
well, he had a nickname in the movie too. I forget, but it was Al Murdoch was the name,
right?
And so the plane has a hole in it. So now, so Nancy has to get the thing on autopilot. So as she's taking the captain out of the seat,
right,
he goes, "Autopilot," just like an airplane when they take Peter Graves out of the seat. He goes, that's where they got it from. There's a nun with a guitar with a sick girl.
Oh, my goodness.
It all came from this one picture.
Right.
So Joe Petroni, who's George Kennedy, he's like the expert. It's so sexist. They're like, honey, can you see there's a series of numbers followed by hash marks. You need to turn that. We got to get you out of the mountains.
Right.
You know, turn that to 240. She goes, I can't. It's like, you just have to turn a dial. We're not asking you to shoot an instrument approach.
Right.
0-0.
Right.
Just turn the dial. And she's
Right.
like, I can't. So she turns the plane. She climbs an altitude or whatever, and they're asking her what all the instruments are. And they're like, we got to get a pilot in there. She can't make another turn. It's just too much for her. I'm like, come on. That's so sick. So they lower Charlton Heston in by rope into the cockpit. And now he's got to land the plane.
I gotta catch up on those movies. There's like two classics, obviously.
Classic
airplane
it's
movies
a
that I have not seen.
And they actually did have they wanted to try to do that for the transferring of crews in the event of an emergency.
Okay.
But like, what emergency would be so bad that you'd have time to put a pilot on a rope, to lower the pilot into a plane, and like, if the emergency wasn't that bad, then there's no need to transfer a crew.
Right.
And if it is that bad, how's the airplane still flying straight level that you can do that?
Right.
So
I think only a Hollywood emergency.
Hollywood
We're going to
emergency.
rig the yoke with a seatbelt, as the engines are failing.
Right.
You know?
What
like,
the heck was that about?
Liberty 2-4 is now Air Force One.
Well, that was great at the end, though. Because people don't realize that Air Force One is a call sign.
Right.
It's
Whatever
not
airplane the president's traveling on.
Whatever airplane. And if the plane...
If I'm on 734 Hotel Delta,
it's
now Air Force One.
Actually, no. You know what it is? If it's a civilian plane, Executive One.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They only did it once. Nixon, to save money, flew on a United flight to California. But Air Force One followed the plane.
Oh.
It was a PR stunt during the oil crisis.
Okay.
You can't have the president exposed like that. There has to be an evac plan.
Right.
So they had to follow. It was a ridiculous. You can never put the president on a plane with other people like that.
Right.
You can't. It's a military command and control airplane.
Yeah.
People just think it's a luxury type
I had no idea.
plane. It's a
The
military
executive one. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they
and the
did it
vice
once.
president is Air Force Two, right?
Vice President's Air Force Two. Right. But sometimes the plane that's usually used as Air Force Two, that 757 that they have, it's a
Right.
DC-32.
Right.
That plane could be Air Force One if they can't get the 747 into the field.
Exactly.
It's like when he came to
Or
Republic
or LaGuardia, something
Well,
like that.
LaGuardia, it's a 73. It's a 757.
Right.
They actually Obama flew a Gulfstream once. They have a Gulfstream.
Well, John, we did that to save money.
Well, that's true. I was on a Gulfstream. I was on Army One
Oh yeah.
when I was with Aviation Week. We flew into Asheville, North Carolina. I was in the
Okay.
Publishers Bonanza. We taxi over to the FBO, which is where you get your fuel and everything for the audience.
Right.
And I see a plane parked right there, blue bottom, white top, United States of America, American flag on the tail. Now, I thought it was that secret C-21 that they send. So when Air Force One flies someplace, there's this Gulfstream that's at another airport in case
Yep.
there's an attack on Air Force One. That's the evac plane for the president.
Okay.
Or if there's like an assassination attempt,
Sure.
they don't go to Air Force One.
Right.
They go to this plane.
Okay.
And they evac the president on that. So I thought it's the C-21. But so the pilots come walking up to us. And we're like, oh, with Aviation Week, we gave them a couple of magazines. They're like, you guys want to check out the plane? They were on a training mission. It was just them. There was no passengers.
Oh wow.
They were just on a just building flight hours or whatever. And the only thing that was different about that plane versus a regular Gulfstream was it was one top secret communications cabinet, which was locked and covered. It had a red cover, and that was it. We didn't touch that.
Right.
And we just walked all around the plane. So everything that was sensitive was secured, and we just got to see it.
That's awesome.
That was so cool.
I never got to fly Gulfstreams. I'm not saying that I will never, but it was kind of one of those corporate airplanes that I wish I could have had a chance to fly.
That's a cool airplane.
I got to fly the Global Express, which is like Bombardier's
Yeah, yeah.
version of a Gulfstream. The cabin's a little bit wider.
Uh-huh.
And the suits like that. When I say suits, I mean like,
The executive.
the very, very wealthy people, the 1%.
the super rich, the 1% of 1% of 1%.
These are the people that we need to root out and have them pay their fair share of taxes.
They need to pay more. So I actually did some research on the private jet market because I used to analyze private jet market for Aviation Week.
Is that right?
There are 22,000 private jets in the world.
Wow.
I'm not even counting turboprops, which
Okay.
is some damn good turboprops
Sure,
out there.
sure.
In fact, my dream plane is the Piaggio Avante.
Oh, you could land that in somebody's driveway.
Anywhere. I've been on a couple, not in flight, but at the NBAA show, I got to go on a couple. They bring the whole airplane.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a Pilatus. You're thinking of the Avanti.
The Avanti.
That's
the
loud.
Italian turboprop with the pusher props in the back.
Yes.
But it's 33% less fuel burn than the jets it competes against with a 6-foot cabin. So that's a lot taller than the other cabins, and it's a little bit wider. So I think it's, with the fuel burn and everything else, the fuel burn, the speed difference is only like 20 knots.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to notice that on a short flight, maybe a cross country 20 knots, but not on a short hop.
When I was working for the charter companies, a lot of the owners would ask us, about this airplane or that airplane, and it really depends upon the mission. What is your typical mission? Where are you flying to? How far are you flying? Mm-hmm. How many people do you typically travel with? How much luggage do you typically take?
All right.
And, that should determine, and obviously what you can afford. But, if you're trying to get down to Florida, you take a few people with you. So it's 1,000 miles figure if you're going from New York. Mm-hmm. You're looking at like a nice mid-range jet to do it comfortably. You could do it in a light jet, the smaller Citations. You could do it in an Avanti or something like that. But we used to hear those guys on the radio all the time. I forget the name of the airline. It was like a fractional Avanti operator. And you could hear them down in South Florida. They're kind of like sweating it out a little bit. They wanted to stay up at altitude for as long as they could. And they didn't like the early descent clearances and getting down too low. Because what happens is when you have to descend too low, you're going to burn more fuel down there. And towards the end of your flight, if these guys are stretching out their mission, in that type of airplane, they could be, maybe cutting a little close. So nothing unsafe, but
but close.
Yeah.
Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I haven't, no. I know Larry David's a big Ranger fan, though.
Yeah,
I was at the game last night, and he was there.
Last night, they had to share a plane, and the pilot was asking how much everybody weighs, and Susan was like, F you, Larry, I'm not telling you how much I weigh. And then they were like 100 pounds overweight.
Right.
Which I was looking at the jet they were on, I'm like, that wouldn't matter.
Right.
100 pounds on a plane, not like that. But it was like a whole thing where they had to land someplace,
If it's based on whatever Larry David could afford, I'm sure that.
I don't think it's a problem.
Exactly.
I don't know what kind of jet it was. I didn't see it that carefully.
Right.
But I don't think that 100 pounds would have mattered either way. But it was a funny premise, for the movie. But the people don't realize that the Citation 10 flies so fast. Like I saw a thing on the 10 where, like, this is why people fly corporate, not on airlines. Or the people that have to be someplace.
It's all about time.
All about time. They call it. In fact, I met that guy Dean Kamen. Who invented the Segway.
Okay.
He said, I call my plane the time machine because it saves me time.
Yep.
So if we were to take an airliner to California, to fly to California, if I was to go to Kennedy and get on a plane out of JFK, let's say, or MacArthur, anywhere, it's about, at least, I'm going to leave myself an hour to get to the airport at least.
Sure.
I'm going to check in at least 90 minutes early. I'm going to get on the plane. So that's 2.5 hours on the ground right there.
Right.
Then it takes, 6 hours to California?
Depending on the wind. I mean,
5.5?
5.5 is a good fair number.
So what are we up to? 7-8 hours already, right? Then I land. I got to get the bag. If I didn't check it, if I check the bag, gotta get. So that's about 9 hours before I'm leaving the LAX airport.
Right.
Now let's do a Citation 10. I drive to Republic 15 minutes. I'm airborne about 15 minutes after I get there, maybe half hour.
Right.
So 45 minutes after I left my house, I'm airborne.
Yep.
The Citation 10 flies at 92.92
0.92
Mach. That's 92% of the speed of sound for the audience. Airliners are 82%, 85%.
0.78.
0.78.
0.80 if you're lucky, yeah.
So
some of the faster ones, actually the 747 could do,
Point-
and the triples maybe 8.4, 8.6, something like that. But
So it shaves
compared to the
45 to an hour off the airliner trip.
I think every 0.01 is like 6 knots in
knots?
true airspeed.
So
Boy,
now-
are we getting dorky for these listeners.
Oh,
huh?
that's it. They know.
They're
I have
loving it.
my
They're
audience
loving
is-
it.
I have a brilliant audience. They know. They can follow. So we basically shave about an hour flight time off the LA trip.
Yep.
So now 45 minutes. So we saved an hour and a half on the ground about. We saved an hour in the air. It's 2.5 hours. And there is no waiting for the bag. You just
Nope. Get off the airplane, hop in your car.
hop in the car, which is usually right there.
Yep.
And we save several hours minimum.
Yep.
That's why people fly those corporate planes.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to fly with a bunch of
Mamalukes.
If
you
in the
will.
back, but you think it's too large. What I don't understand is this. You work for an airline, right?
Yes.
Okay. I see this all the time as a passenger. With the bags. find out what the size of the bag is supposed to be and comply before you get to the airport. Weight, I have a little scale you can buy.
Yep.
So I know I'm under 50 pounds.
Right.
So I don't have to go, oh my God, I can't believe how much do I have to pay because it's over. That's it. I know my if I'm checking the bag, I know it's weight compliant and size compliant.
Right.
And then my underseat, I know the underseat dimensions of every airline there is.
Right.
There's websites that tell you. So you have to make sure that you have one. You're allowed to carry on a personal item.
Right.
Personal item has to fit under the seat in front of you.
Exactly.
That means that it has to be smaller than 22 by 14 by 9, which is the maximum allowable carry-on size. And the wheels count towards the size of the bag. So if you get those four-wheeled bags, that's going to be smaller packing space. But it counts. The wheels count.
I gotta say, you know more about that stuff.
Go.
Know before you go. That's right. What was it? Channel 61. They used to say that.
Know
right?
before you go.
With the news
that's
12.
Right. That's right. The news 12.
With the traffic and weather.
Traffic and weather. Know before you go. So if the maximum size is 22 by 14 by 9, you know what I see all the time? Oh, they told me it was carry-on compliant. Why are you making me gate checking or checking it? Because it's
because you got scammed by the marketer.
You got scammed by the marketer. So what could you do, folks? Buy a bag that's maybe a little smaller than the maximum allowable size.
Right.
Chances are they're not going to make you check it.
Or just be crew and you don't have to do any of that stuff.
And if you check jewelry like that idiot rapper, she checked a $2 million ring because you know what? People bring one bag. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I always bring two bags. One really small so I can put all my critical stuff in the small bag. Because if there's no overhead space, I know everybody gets under the seat storage.
Yep.
But sometimes they're out of overhead.
Right.
So you got to bring a bag that's small enough to fit under the seat, which is usually about 36 linear inches. I did my homework. No taller than 8 inches high, 17 by, I think, 13 or so. So buy a bag that's a little smaller. It'll fit under the seat. Now, she had to check the bag. She put the jewelry, you didn't take the jewelry out before she checked it. She forgot. Now, if you check $2 million worth of jewelry and they steal it, kudos to the baggage handlers. You steal that.
Right.
You take it out, anything of value, that's yours. The only thing you should be checking is clothes. You check a laptop, steal it. You check cash or jewelry, I want the baggage handlers to steal it. They deserve it.
They deserve it more than you because
you're stupid.
I'm not saying that the airlines are unreliable with losing bags or not losing bags, but if you're putting something that's worth $2 million on a bag that you're going to check through an airline, you probably don't care that much about that possession.
Now, if I'm a smart thief, and there are smart thieves out there, I see this moron rapper check that bag, and they usually have some stupid, ugly, disgusting bag that stands out anyway, right? Now, I get to the baggage claim before she does, before this idiot rapper. That's where this theft could have taken place. They could have taken the whole bag.
Right. And you know what's funny? They put the claim tickets on your bags.
Right.
And unfortunately, John, I don't travel that much for leisure. Right. I need to change that in life. But nobody checks the claim ticket on your bag.
They used to back in the
Do they?
I've
never even had them do that.
They never check. You could walk out of there. I could take 20 bags with me. They would never check. Now, sometimes idiot passengers take the wrong bag. Right? I could spot my bag, even though I have a black Briggs & Riley suitcase.
Do you tie like a fancy ribbon on the handle so you know? Like that's what my parents used to do.
I do. I have the neoprene grips
in their American Tourister luggage.
Now, what
vintage.
I had to get rid of my luggage strap. Because I went to see my wife out, and she flew out for work to San Francisco. I flew into the San Francisco airport. I met her out there.
Okay.
So I have a black bag with a rainbow luggage strap that came with the bag to identify it. It's rainbow colored. I'm in the San Francisco airport. Now, I don't know anything at that time about the pride thing.
I thought it just meant you liked Skittles.
Okay, so I'm walking through the airport, black bag, rainbow strap, San Francisco.
Yep.
By the way. And all these people are giving me thumbs up. And I'm like, how do they know I'm a pilot? I'm thinking I had my AOPA hat on. I'm like, no, I don't have my hat on. I'm looking at my shirt to see if I had my Top Gun shirt or anything. How do they know I'm a pilot? So I tell my wife the story. She starts cracking up. She goes, that's the gay pride flag. So I had to give it to a gay friend. Because I kept getting hit on at the San Francisco airport.
Hey, you're a handsome devil, man.
Handsome devil.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with
that. But that was like a funny story but now I have the neoprene grips.
Okay.
And I wrote my name on it in Sharpie.
Yep.
So you have to be an idiot to pick that up because I put them on the handles just for that reason. So they say, "Oh, I don't have a neoprene handle," because people be like, "Oh, I took the wrong bag. I'll bring it back at the end of the trip." Well, what's that person supposed to do for the whole trip?
Especially if you're traveling as like Tony Soprano or something. There's no way they're picking up that bag.
It's too nice. I should bring back the fucking bag. I had cash in there. What the fuck am I supposed to do now? I had the payoff money.
Oh my goodness! Usually, my carry-on is my sleep apnea machine.
Oh, cool.
Do you have sleep apnea?
I just got my machine yesterday.
Oh, you did?
I just thought last night was the first night with the machine.
Oh, all right.
I already slept better. Yeah,
yeah, you did because like when they did the sleep study, I was like, this is awful.
I did the sleep
How
study.
could
back in
anybody
December.
actually sleep under these conditions?
Where did you go for the sleep study?
I went to Mather Hospital out in Port Jeff Station.
So I went to a place in on Franklin
a
Avenue.
few years ago now. Okay.
I just went in December.
Was that Malvern or something?
No, it's Franklin Avenue
I'm
in Garden
thinking
City.
I'm
Right
thinking
by
Hempstead
Lord
Avenue.
and Taylor. There's a beautiful sleep center there.
Okay.
And I think it's called the Sleep Center. Great name. So just like the radio. It's obvious.
Hey.
And they put 15 leads on my head alone.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then they put like the EKG. You were pretty wide up too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Nice and comfortable, right? It makes
Yeah.
you want to go to sleep.
And then I had, every time I got up to go to the bathroom, I had to take this like unit with me, like an Apollo astronaut.
Yeah.
So I was going to play a joke on them. So I'm a big Schwarzenegger fan. So I was going to be like, pretend to go to sleep and go, "You blew my cover! They'd be here any minute! We have to get to Mars!" Do a total recall, But I was afraid they'd throw me out of there.
Oh, my goodness.
Or I could have been like asleep and going,
This is the best. Unbelievable. We're going to be so terrific.
like I could have done anybody, But that would have been like, or you're in a room
Are
by
these
yourself.
sensors going to get stuck on my hair?
They're so sticky.
But all I hear was like, so I go to sleep and I got great sleep once they put the machine on.
Right.
They put the machine on like 2 a.m. She goes, I think you need a machine. So I go on the machine. So this woman, all of a sudden, this is what I hear at 6:45 in the morning. Mr. John, wake up!
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
shit, what happened?
And when they're going to start the study, they talk to you through that intercom
Yeah,
too.
go
It's
to
like,
sleep now.
Like, okay, John, you ready to go to sleep? It's
And I'm like, yeah,
okay, this is
rockabye
the
baby.
creepiest thing I've ever.
It's so creepy because they got a camera on you.
How many people slept in this medical bed before me?
But they were really. I mean, it was as great as they could, I guess, be.
Sure.
But when I went for to the doctor in January after she got the results, I stopped breathing like 99 times an hour.
Oh, really? Wow. Mine's pretty good. I was like 5 times an hour. I was like barely moderate. I think
I'm severe.
5 or something is the cutoff between mild and moderate.
So she actually said, "We don't know how you're still alive." She said, "You're not going." She goes, "You're going to be much more creative when you start to get sleep." And she goes, "The side effect could be that you start doing other people's voices." That's what she-
There you go. Hey, it's been working great. For the audience, sleep apnea is like a super serious thing, as we're alluding to. You essentially stop breathing in your sleep, so your brain is being deprived of oxygen.
Yep.
And it really has an effect on you the next day. You feel tired during the day.
Tired, groggy.
And if it's that severe, I'm not saying that yours was, but you could be literally falling asleep during the day.
Yep.
If it's that bad.
Yep.
I notice a big difference since I've been on the machine.
I never fell asleep like I'll fall asleep if I'm a passenger in a car.
Oh, sure.
No problem.
Sure.
But now, I feel more alert.
Yep.
I felt more energetic.
I don't have to drink as much coffee either.
You don't have to drink as much coffee, which also leads to, over caffeination is not good either.
Right.
Over caffeination. It's freaking horrible.
Hey, T, I got to take a piss,
Dude, this is not good.
It's not good, Tom. Too much coffee, no good.
Do you have those lines on your face when you wake up in the morning from like your headgear? And I'm not saying like headgear when you wore braces, but like
Oh, the mask.
Yeah.
No, but I felt. I have just the nose.
they're like they call them nasal pillows.
Nasal
right?
pillows, right? I feel like a MIG pilot.
They look like nose plugs, and then you have like the two
Mine
straps with
is
the
like a
nasal
little
pillows.
cone. It's
Okay.
not.
Okay.
The nose is one thing. Like
Okay.
it's almost like an ambu bag when I was an EMT.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess mine apparatus is a little smaller than that, but I've got these weird lines on my face when I woke up.
It's weird though
wake
because
up in the morning.
they're actually putting air into your head,
Right.
to keep your airway open.
Right.
Like why can't
It's
they
strange.
just wedge a thing in there?
And you're not an overweight guy.
Oh, I'm very fat.
I'm
so fat. Are you kidding? I'm so fat.
I mean, maybe on paper we are, but I think a lot of there's a bit of an unfair stereotype when it comes to sleep apnea. People think that only overweight people have it. And
No, a
that's
lot
just
of people
not the
have it.
case.
My doctor told me I could see an improvement if I lose weight, though.
Okay,
She did
yeah.
say to lose weight.
Like I don't. My doctor says I don't have the symptoms right now when I use the machine, but mine was due to, airway construction.
Right,
And I've
that-
had reconstructive surgery.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, my nose looks way better now. But and that helped a little bit. But the machine helps even more. So.
Well, I have a British doctor, and she's like, if you lose the weight, you can possibly reverse the effects of the sleep apnea. I love listening to her talk
yeah,
because she's
so
got the British accent.
so precise, so polite.
So polite. The British are the
How
best.
do we get
I
on
love
that?
the British.
Because I was using that as my carry-on, my machine. is
Yes,
my
we were talking about
carry-on.
carry-on.
Yeah. So
Oh, right. I got to bring that sucker on the plane with me next week when I go to Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I won't bring him. Maybe I'll take
you got to bring it.
Got to bring it.
You
but
need it to sleep.
Now I got to check a bag done.
You're going down there
That's
with
gonna eat up
Butera,
one of my-
right? I think he's got
Yeah,
it too.
Butera's going.
You guys could have like a sleep apnea.
We're going to have a sleep apnea
competition.
like Darth
Yeah.
Vader.
Yeah.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker.
Mine is so quiet too.
Mine is very quiet.
I had so many reservations about getting a machine, and that was one of them. I was like, well, it's going to be loud, it's going to be disturbing.
No, it's
but
very
no,
quiet.
Can't hear it
You
at all.
hardly hear the air. It was like the air moving in Apollo 13 when they put the.
I don't have
thing to
anyone
scrub the
sleeping next to me
filters.
now to tell me how loud it is, but I know that it's quiet.
Well, my wife is starting to snore. I want her to go for the study.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, she should. She'll notice the difference.
What were we talking about? We were talking about
We're talking about carry-on bags and
carry-on
luggage.
bag.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I have to ask you this question.
Yeah, sure.
I used to fly the Airbus to Washington all the time on US Air.
Okay.
Right? What the hell is a cross-check?
A cross-check?
Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for cross-check and arrival. They used to say that every time. What is the cross? Is that the doors?
Yeah, they're talking about doors.
Doors,
Arming
okay.
and disarming the doors. I'm 98% sure
That's
on
what
that.
it is.
I mean, that's their call out.
You
Yeah.
haven't seen my act, but I do a bit about you know how like you guys make the in-flight announcements. It's like we've reached our cruising altitude, 35,000 feet.
Yeah.
I do a bit called the horny pilot. I go, what if? Do you think they talk like that when they're having sex with a woman? And I do a bit.
I bet some of them do because they have no personality, no social skills.
And I do that bit in my act. I'm like, well, thanks for coming back to my hotel room with me. Let's get that blouse undone. And I can't do the rest any more than that on the radio. You have to come see the show. All
right, checklist.
I do that whole thing, and I wrote that bit on the shuttle to Washington.
Right.
This unbelievably gorgeous woman is sitting right next to me, and the pilot's doing the announcement, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, there's a bit here. And I started writing it. And I refined it a little bit over the years. But pilots, like if there's a pilot, they go, holy cow, that horny pilot bit was incredible.
It would probably get a ton of laughs
Ton of laughs.
because it's so true.
Flight attendants love the bit. They all love the bit.
Pilots are very robotic. Flight attendants would probably love it more than the pilots because they love making fun of
They
pilots.
love making fun of the pilots.
And pilots love making fun of pilots. Most pilots do.
now
I
I-
am not like most pilots.
I took off for DC on like a 10-degree day. And this
Okay.
is not what the flight attendant said, but this is what I heard. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard our nonstop service to Washington, D.C. this morning. In the event of a water landing, we're going to ask our most valued frequent flyers to get in the life raft first, followed by anybody on a coach ticket. If your class of service says F you, that's the particular rate code you're on. You'll be the last aboard the life. And your ticket will be designated with the fare code FU. And but if you're dividend platinum or whatever,
Right,
you'll
right.
board first. And then it's like, for those of you that aren't lucky enough to get in the life raft, we ask you to just please don that life vest. And at this water's temperature, you'll be frozen to death in about 3 to 4 minutes. However, donning the life vest will keep your dead, lifeless, frozen body bobbing along the surface so we can return it to your family for burial. Thank you for choosing U.S. Airways nonstop service to Washington. And like that's like what I heard. I'm like, there's no way we're surviving. It's 10 degrees air
Right,
temperature. The
right.
water's got to be
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Frigid.
You know what's funny? Like, you ever notice how they like the different types of pitch inflections they use when they're making those announcements?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like welcome aboard, flight down to DC, and please, they're just like they always kind of talk like this, and then they talk like that just goes up and down with the pitch inflections. I'm trying to come up with an example. It's like every single time, it's like, please make your way to the closest available seat and move into that seat as soon as possible.
Now, I have to ask you this, because I saw Commando. Is it possible that if you're on the landing gear of an L-1011 and you're lifting off from the California, is it possible to jump off the landing gear as soon as the plane leaves the runway, fall about 150 feet into the water and survive that. And then jump right up and he looks at his watch. I have 12 hours, to find my daughter.
Well, if you're Arnold, you probably
Arnold.
could. I don't think I could.
The best is when the terrorist who was watching him on the plane, he snaps his neck and he puts the hat and the blanket on him. He goes, "Don't bother my friend. He's dead tired." Although the first thing she says, "Do you have any luggage?" "Just him." That's the best line. Just him.
Nice.
Did you ever see? You saw Commando.
I
right?
didn't see that.
Come on.
Nope. I swear to God.
Yeah, I did it. I did what you did.
That's
before.
okay.
Come on.
That's the proper reaction.
Commando's a great movie.
Air Force One we talked about before. That's one of my favorite airplane movies. I also like Independence Day. That's another good, decent airplane movie.
I did this. You know the speech he makes at the end.
Yeah.
I did that speech. One is Tony Soprano, and the other one is Donald Trump.
Oh, really? Doing Bill Pullman's
During
speech?
the speech, I'm like, I said,
Today we celebrate our independence.
I said, I did. I was Tony Soprano. I go, we are gonna whack every single one of those smelly, disgusting alien pieces of shit, and then we're gonna celebrate off an Independence Day.
Awesome.
With Trump, I did.
Good morning. In a couple of hours, you're going to launch the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. That's pretty big, right? I mean, that's the largest battle ever. And you're going to be you're going to be fighting not against tyranny, oppression. Those are pretty horrible things. But annihilation's a lot worse, believe me.
You're fighting for all those things, but
All those-
mostly you're fighting to make me a better president.
And I suppose it's
Let's be
ironic
honest.
that today is the 4th of July. I said, and you're going to kill those illegal aliens. Not the ones from Mexico. I'm talking about, that's common sense.
And we're
right?
going to rename this date the Trump of July.
Trump Day. I said, not
Trump
the
Day.
illegal aliens from here. We're talking about the ones from space. You knew that, right? That's common sense.
Everybody knows there's no
Everybody
such thing
knows
as aliens. I was watching the State of the Union, and I'm not going into political affiliation here, but like during the State of the Union speech, he's talking about the new branch of the armed forces that we
Space
created.
Force.
It's called the Space Force.
Is that Air Force Space Command?
I
all
could
over
not
again?
stop laughing. And then they pan to the Joint Chiefs of
Joint
Staff
Chiefs,
and all
yeah,
the
yeah.
military guys, and they are just like stone faced,
But Air
not
Force-
clapping. It's like, what are these guys thinking right now?
But Air Force Space Command is already doing that same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't understand why it was in a separate...
I don't know. It sounds awesome though.
It sounds awesome, but like it's already part of... It's still under the Department of the Air Force, I think.
I think you're right.
So
yeah.
how is it... I guess now it has its own secretary, maybe, but it's already under the Air Force.
I mean, I'm happy that we're
Secretary.
getting back out there and exploring.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
But so that means they're going to build moonrakers, and they're going to build with the laser things.
I guess I don't know. We want to be the first body on Mars. That's for sure.
I can't believe it's already 10. Well, the show's almost
We
over.
didn't even. Did we not get to a lot of things you wanted to get to?
No. We
I'm
got
a bit of a
everything.
rambler. I apologize.
No, this is great. No, this is awesome. We had we have to do the weather. Here.
Oh, the weather.
I'm going to let you pick the celebrity who's going to read the weather.
Oh, okay.
There's the list right
let's
there.
Let's see.
Let me get to the thing here. Yeah, I got the weather here. All right. So we did
All
the
right.
airplane movies. We did Air Force One.
Oh, let's do Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, no, I don't do him anymore.
Oh, just kidding.
Sorry.
Okay.
Darn, I'm sorry. The one you picked, too, I feel bad.
All right.
It's got to be someone we haven't done it yet.
On a related topic, I must confess, I'm giving serious thought to your Al Pacino impression.
I could do Al Pacino.
Yeah, let's do
I
Al
was doing
Pacino.
him on the last show, so I'm all warmed up. Here's your weather forecast for Massapequa. Rain, mainly before midnight. Patchy fog after 9 p.m. That's now. Low around 38. Southwest wind 5 to 8 miles per hour, becoming light and variable in the evening. Chance of precipitation 80%. But it's raining now, so scratch that. Make it 100% because it's raining.
I love it.
Tuesday, rain mostly before noon, patchy before 9 a.m., steady temperature around 43, and that's your weather forecast for Massapequa.
Outstanding. I love it.
Thank you. This
I
was
love it.
awesome having a real pilot here as opposed to Microsoft.
Well, you
Did
know
you
what's
see the new
funny?
one?
I would
It's coming
probably,
out.
if I flew Microsoft Simulator right now, a non-full flight simulator, I'd probably goof that up like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, I got to tell you about the video I'm going to make. I don't know if I'm going to make it now with my old 2006 flight simulator or if I'm going to wait until the new one comes out. But I'm doing, so you know how there was Sully?
Yes.
Right. So I'm going to have Silvio Dante from The Sopranos land an Airbus on the Hudson. Silly.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah,
Tony
yeah.
Soprano is the co-pilot.
I love it.
It's like, all right, land on the Jersey side. We don't want to frickin' end up over here.
And I'm going to land the plane on the water. I think I'm going to wait for the new, because the new graphics look
Tony's the co-pilot.
look fit. Tony's the co-pilot.
If you think I'm going to go out there and do a walk around, you got another thing coming.
Get the frick out of here.
It's raining outside. I'm not doing a pre-flight walk
Frickin'
around.
boring.
You're out of your mind.
But I did Sopranos in space, like them on the space shuttle.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, so watch your attitude. He goes, what the frick does my attitude have to do with it?
Oh, the frickin' 8-ball. Your attitude.
You're pitching up unintentionally.
Level the wings.
You're going to have an undesired consequence. I don't like your macho attitude. That's one of the hazardous attitudes.
But I might have, like, I got to figure out how I'm going to make it Bada Bing Airways.
I love it.
And I'll have, like, the controller, like a real twangy control, like, Bada Bing, 3, 2, 5, you're clear for takeoff, runway.
Yeah, like a Southern
And
guy.
they're like a Southern guy. They're like,
Bada bing, 3, 2, 3. We're
Oh,
rolling.
my goodness.
something like that.
I guess, what do we have, a few minutes left?
Yeah, we got, like, 4 minutes.
You just mentioned a controller with a Southern drawl. There's a controller that works in New York arrivals and departures, and I'm not sure where he's from. I think he's from Texas. I want to meet him in person one day. He has the most distinct Southern accent, like just very laid back.
York?
Oh, absolutely.
I'll listen to him on the
Yeah,
tapes.
listen to 25.7, 32.4.
25.7?
28.12. All these are frequencies for all you non-dorks.
25.7, what was the other one?
125.7, 132.4, 128.12. All the arrival and departure frequencies, 35.9 maybe, coming
know-
into JFK.
you know, I
working
used
the
to be a
JFK arrivals.
controller.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got fired.
I went back to school for
I
that.
did different voices. They fired me.
Is that right?
I was like, yeah, Austria, come on, climb to 9,000 feet. You can do it.
Oh, my
More
goodness.
power.
That's awesome.
No, I'm kidding.
That's
but
awesome.
how cool would that? I was
That
going to
would
make
be
a
great.
video. Like, where I
Aviation
do
should be a little
different-
bit more fun, you know.
little
It's
more
like,
fun.
Look, I'm not saying it shouldn't be taken seriously. It's a very serious job with a lot of responsibility, but you know, if you're a professional, you can have a little bit of fun with it. But,
Like I could do Bloomberg, like when they come to New York, Aero Mexico 234, or I'm sorry, dos tres cuatro, clear to land runway uno tres.
He's from Boston, isn't he?
Yeah, but when he was mayor, like I could have done that. That joke would have been better like 10 years ago.
Right, but he still had a little bit of a Boston twang to him.
Well, I do him speaking.
Reminds me of Susan Wallman when she's, oh my goodness.
I do him in English and Spanish in my act.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because
Really?
he used to speak
Oh,
during
yeah,
the
yeah.
hurricane. It's like for those of you that don't speak English, and he would like do Spanish.
That's
It
terrible.
always sounded hilarious.
They don't work on the pronunciation at all.
Not at all. Not with him.
terrible.
No, it's like el 22. Like that's how he talks.
But this guy is unbelievable, and he's adopted like the New Yorker personality in the way that he moves airplanes and stuff. But he's got his southern drawl. It's like JetBlue 55, descend to maintain 5,000, turn left 030. It's like I love this guy. He's no question
Yeah.
in my mind the best controller that I talked to.
Cool.
My favorite guy, just
All right.
for all those reasons. Anyway, I guess
We're
we're
wrap-
running out
are,
of time.
we there? We're at the Mr. Producer's giving me the we're wrapping up show.
This was a ton
signal.
of fun. I really
So we do hand
appreciate it.
signals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We do hand signals here.
It's like a home run.
We didn't even get the stick and runner. My wife tried to throw this book out. She's like, it's old. It's classic. Every pilot reads this. Let me just do the copyright. That's the only other thing I want. It was originally written in 1944 by Wolfgang. I'm not going to say the last name. Lankowicz.
That's a great name.
Great name. Well, I want to thank my special guest host, Tom Murphy.
Yeah, it was
we
a
didn't even talk
pleasure.
about your comedy at all. It was all aviation today.
We can get back into it one day.
Totally, we'll have you back on the show.
Yeah, that'd
this
be
is a
great.
great show. I think the audience loved the show because they're tired of hearing my, pseudo knowledge of aviation. That's nice to have a real person.
I don't
No, I
know.
know a lot about a
You
lot of
certainly
things.
do.
I'm a fountain of useless information. That's what they say. Thank you so much for listening to the radio. Anything you want to sign off with?
No, I've got nothing. Thank you so much. I had a blast. I'd love to do it again someday.
All right, this is the Dowling College alumni signing off. Thank you for listening.